The number one goal, as we're taught by our master teacher, Dougie Fresh.
That's right.
Right?
Look at Dougie Fresh as well.
Fresh, man.
Leave that stage destroyed.
Yes.
Destroy that stage with rap and music and hip hop. We'd be like, no, we didn't make appealing music. Matter of fact, we made music at the same time. Like, we trying to make you not like our music. So when you see us, you be like, what is this?
So what started to happen was when Public Enemy, and I remember this vividly, my album was called Knowledge is King. It was going into a whole spiritual space about knowledge and being intelligent. KRS-One was saying Jesus was black. And Public Enemy was saying it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. That's all 88, 89, and by the time we got to 90, the powers that be said this black conscious movement is moving without radio play, it's moving completely underground, and there's an underground subculture of positive, pro-black, intelligent people. We cannot have this movement happening.
You could put any gangster record on, pick any artist, and when that Public Enemy come on, it's a different type of violent revolution going on. I don't think you more capable than them with the S1Ws and them 98 Brohams, and it's 20 of them, and they all militant and reading 1,000 books.
Tough for real.
You know what I'm saying?
Rappers being scared of going public? That wasn't even close to the energy Chuck D, Flavor Flav, and the Bomb Squad brought in 1987. They didn't just step into hip-hop. They shook it up and made the whole scene nervous. Everybody knows Public Enemy. Yeah, legendary, revolutionary, all that. But barely anyone talks about how their rise sent real fear through the industry. This wasn't just music. It was pressure. It was confrontation. It was something people couldn't ignore. Back then, mid-1980s hip-hop felt way different. It was fun, light, all about parties, breakdancing, and making people feel good. Groups like the Fat Boys ran that era heavy, pushing a playful, easy vibe that everybody could enjoy. Their style was built on jokes, food bars, and beatboxing skills that made crowds smile. They were safe, marketable, and easy for the mainstream to accept because they didn't challenge anything or anyone. It was all entertainment, no tension. Hip-hop at that time felt like an escape route. It was something you turned on to forget stress, not face it. The goal was simple: move the crowd, get people dancing, keep the energy high, and don't make things too serious. The Fat Boys mastered that lane, no question. They owned that novelty space and made it look effortless. Then Public Enemy stepped in and completely flipped the script. They didn't ease into the game. They came in loud and burned that whole lane down. Suddenly, hip-hop wasn't just fun anymore. It was serious, it was bold, and it was speaking on real issues. They weren't talking about food or party vibes. They were calling out police brutality, exposing the prison system, and questioning how the media plays with the truth.
For the things that America has done to other countries, we believe wholeheartedly that America should be taken into an international or world court. You understand what I'm saying? You understand? You sure? We're not talking about a court right downtown with Gotch and his boys. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about the prefabricated mess that they're gonna escape and by blaming some old knucklehead. No, we talking about taking America to a real court. You understand what I'm saying? Now, but if you notice, we can charge America with kidnapping because she brought black people from Africa to America. We can charge her with rape. She raped Africa and still is raping Africa of all the riches. You understand what I'm saying? We can definitely charge her with murder. 250 million black people lost their lives from Africa to America.
That shift hit hard, and not everyone was ready for it. They turned hip-hop into something way deeper, using it as a weapon for political pressure and rewriting history right in front of people's eyes. Suddenly, everything the Fat Boys stood for started to look childish next to that kind of intensity. The shift hit hard when listeners went from fun tracks about eating to explosive records like Rebel Without a Pause. That contrast wasn't small. It was brutal. Party rap artists didn't just fall off trend. They started looking outdated, like they belonged to a different time. Public Enemy pushed hip-hop into serious territory and made it clear there were now two sides to the culture. On one side, you had raw truth, politics, and real-world relevance. On the other, you had light party vibes that suddenly felt small and out of touch. And just like that, the Fat Boys were stuck on the wrong side of that divide. Here's where it gets rough. They couldn't just switch it up. A group known for jokes and playful energy can't suddenly jump into heavy political topics without it feeling forced. That box they built their career in, it became a trap overnight.
It's like 1,000 Malcolm X's. You know what I'm saying? When you see blackness at that caliber of power, because I'm not into violence, I'm into power. It's two different things. When you see that power, that black power, you go, yeah, I'm protected.
When do we lose that?
I think when you give them more money and less knowledge, it's not how you get the money, it's can you keep it.
Right.
I could buy the biggest house on the block. That don't mean I'm gonna be there for 20 years. I might only have one hit record, so I was there for 2 years.
Public Enemy didn't just outshine them, they changed what the audience expected completely. The pressure wasn't about losing fans in a normal way, it was about realizing the whole game had moved forward without them. The vibe had changed for real. The new era demanded voices that could speak on the crack epidemic, systemic racism, and the real struggles hitting black communities. These weren't topics the Fat Boys were built to handle, and it showed. They looked out of place, like entertainers dropped into a space filled with urgency and activism. That kind of shift wasn't just uncomfortable, it was intimidating. Public Enemy didn't just raise the bar, they made anything less feel irrelevant. Party rap started to seem small, almost like a joke in a space that had stopped laughing. The Fat Boys felt that shift heavy, but they weren't alone. Even LL Cool J, a huge Def Jam star and one of the biggest names in hip-hop, was watching Public Enemy rise on the same label, and that tension was impossible to ignore. He was calling home, and yeah, he was nervous. LL Cool J had built his whole career on a clear formula, aggressive battle bars mixed with smooth romance, talking his success, his chains, and his appeal with women. That was his lane, and he owned it. He wasn't just another rapper, he was the blueprint for the solo superstar, the face of Def Jam, the one who proved hip-hop could create lasting careers. For years, nobody touched his spot. He was the center of everything, the name everyone looked at when they thought about success in rap. But then Public Enemy showed up with that raw political intensity, and suddenly LL's style started to feel different. Not weak, but like it was missing something deeper. And the wild part? Public Enemy didn't even have to say his name to make that happen.
So the unfortunate part for gangster, quote unquote gangster rap was they started to handpick what they were going to play. And this is the part that you know. They went from not playing rap because they said it was too edgy and not melodic enough to playing the most profane rap and beeping the curses out. That's how bad they wanted to get that content on the radio. There's nothing on the radio that hasn't been paid for.
They attacked something bigger, the empty space in a lot of mainstream rap that didn't stand for anything serious. With the S1Ws standing behind them in that militant image, they moved like a unit, not just performers. Calling themselves the Black CNN, they positioned their music as information, as truth, as something urgent. That created a sharp contrast, entertainers on one side, activists on the other. And in that split, LL Cool J started getting boxed in as just the entertainer. Public Enemy changed what it meant to be hard in hip-hop. Before them, being hard meant being physically tough, street-ready, someone you don't mess with. After them, being hard meant having knowledge, being aware, and being ready to challenge the system itself. LL had the talent, the presence, no doubt about that. But his role looked different next to a group that felt like they were fighting for something bigger than music. And having both on Def Jam, that made everything way more intense. The competition wasn't quiet, it was right there in the open. As Public Enemy kept rising, it started to put pressure on LL Cool J's position at the top. This wasn't just about hits or numbers anymore. It was about meaning, impact, and who really mattered in the culture. That fear creeping in, it wasn't about losing sales, it was about losing significance. He was starting to risk being labeled the commercial sellout, especially next to Public Enemy's raw, revolutionary image. And that pressure, it started leaking straight into his music. When LL dropped Walking with a Panther, you could see him trying to tap into that Black Panther symbolism, clearly influenced by the shift Public Enemy created, but still holding on to his polished, radio-friendly sound. The reaction hit hard. Critics came at the album saying it leaned too pop, too soft for the moment, and that feedback confirmed exactly what he feared.
So when you talk about the question that you asked, we need to take America to a little along with Libya, and Iran. You understand what I'm saying? And the brothers and sisters down in South Africa and the Palestinians. We all need to get together and take America before the church, and the church is Allah. God is the church. You understand what I'm saying? We need to take America to a world court.
Public Enemy had completely changed the climate of hip-hop, and LL Cool J was stuck trying to find his place in a storm he didn't create. He was caught between staying a massive commercial star and proving he had real depth in an era that now demanded it. The pressure didn't ease up either, it got tighter. Every interview felt loaded, every track he dropped got compared to Public Enemy's message-heavy style. LL wasn't just making music anymore, he was constantly defending his position in the culture. That's a different kind of battle, and it doesn't let up. And he wasn't alone in feeling that shift. The Beastie Boys were dealing with it too. They had just dropped License to Ill, one of the biggest rap albums of the entire 1980s. Huge success, no question. But their image was built on wild, early energy, talking about partying, drinking, and rebellious antics that didn't take itself too seriously.
It was a systematic breakdown of older brothers in our community, about 77, 78. And what we had to do, we was young ourselves, we would look for guidance. A lot of brothers would go to the army, they would go to jail, get caught up in the systematic rule. So when you looked for a role model, there was none, so you had to be one.
Even with all that success, their credibility in core hip-hop circles was always shaky. A lot of people saw them as outsiders or even a novelty act, despite their real connection to New York's downtown scene. Then Public Enemy stepped in with serious political weight, and the contrast became impossible to ignore. Lyrics about Brass Monkey sitting next to Chuck D's powerful messages, that gap felt massive, and everybody noticed it. When you put party records next to bars about the prison industrial complex, the difference hits hard and feels uncomfortable. That contrast made the Beastie Boys' earlier material seem small in comparison. The pressure they felt wasn't just about image, it was intellectual. They were sharp enough to see that their goofy, carefree style wouldn't survive in a space that was turning serious fast. If they stayed on that same path, they risked being written off as jokes in a culture that was no longer laughing. Public Enemy raised the bar for everybody on Def Jam, no exceptions. It wasn't just about selling records anymore, that wasn't enough. Now, artists had to stand for something, had to add real meaning to the culture. The Beastie Boys saw that shift clearly, and the fear of being stuck with that novelty act label pushed them to make a drastic move. Respect from peers like Chuck D mattered, and they knew they had to evolve or get left behind. So they made a bold switch. They completely dropped that frat rap image and went in a new direction. Moving out to Los Angeles, they locked in and created Paul's Boutique, a project that showed a whole different level of creativity. Inspired by the Bomb Squad's layered chaos, they built their own complex sound, stacking samples in a way that felt unpredictable and fresh. It was a risk, no doubt, but it proved they were more than just party rappers. That shift came with a price, though. They lost some of that commercial momentum for a while, trading instant success for long-term respect. That's the kind of move you only make when the pressure is real. Public Enemy's presence forced that decision, whether directly or not. And it wasn't just newer artists feeling it, even the pioneers had to pay attention. Afrika Bambaataa, one of the true architects of hip-hop, a Bronx legend who helped build the culture from the ground up, was watching this shift happen in real time. His electro-funk sound, blending electronic vibes with funk and futuristic energy, had defined innovation for years. It was about unity, positivity, and expression.
So that was an investment. So the part that we're really, really underestimating is if you had PE over here and you had Biggie over here, they're going to say we're going to put more money into Biggie because we understand his content. And this is back to freedom of speech without question. I love a lot of what Biggie did. I love a lot of what NWA did, but they started to make us one-dimensional. So instead of seeing that there was the Black Panther and the Mac, they started only showing the Mac.
But then the Bomb Squad came through with something completely different. Their production didn't feel smooth or futuristic in the same way. It felt urgent, layered, and almost chaotic. They stacked samples on top of each other, mixed in sharp sounds like sirens and noise, creating tension you could feel through the speakers. It wasn't just music anymore. It sounded like a warning, and that energy changed everything. This new sound structure completely redefined what cutting edge even meant. For pioneers like Africa Bambaataa, this shift wasn't exciting. It was unsettling. The heavy, layered chaos of Public Enemy made those clean drum machine beats from the early 80s start to feel thin and outdated. Technology had jumped forward fast, especially with new sampling machines, and the Bomb Squad knew exactly how to push it to the limit. They weren't just producers, they were dominating that space. And any group that didn't upgrade their sound and message to match this new level of intensity, they risked being left behind completely. That's where the real pressure hit for the pioneers. It's that uncomfortable moment when someone takes what you created and flips it into something you barely recognize. Bambaataa and others from that era were staring at a tough decision: either evolve with the times or slowly fade into history. Public Enemy's commanding lyrics and aggressive production made it clear the old school era was coming to a close. And the fear wasn't just about losing chart positions, it was about becoming irrelevant in a culture you helped build. That original message of peace, love, and unity started to feel out of place next to Public Enemy's intense confrontational energy. The genre had changed. It had gotten sharper, louder, and way more serious. It was like hip-hop had grown teeth, and now it was turning on its own foundation. And this intimidation didn't stop at hip-hop either. Scott Ian from the thrash metal band Anthrax felt it up close. When Anthrax teamed up with Public Enemy for a remake of Bring the Noise, it became a huge crossover moment before that sound was even common. But even as an accomplished musician, Ian admitted the pressure was real. He openly said that having to deliver a rap verse in front of Chuck D was intimidating. That says a lot. Public Enemy's presence wasn't just strong, it demanded respect. And even artists from completely different genres could feel that intensity the moment they stepped into that space. That fear came straight from Chuck D's presence, his voice, his mind, the authority he carried every time he touched a mic. Scott Ian didn't just respect him, he saw him as the greatest rapper ever. That kind of respect can turn into pressure real fast, and that's exactly what happened. It created a serious case of imposter syndrome because Ian knew he was stepping into a space where Chuck D wasn't just good, he was untouchable. This shows just how powerful Public Enemy really was. Their influence went way beyond hip-hop, reaching into other genres and making established artists second-guess themselves. Chuck D's delivery wasn't casual. It was commanding, loud, and impossible to ignore. Being around that kind of presence meant you had to be sharp every second. The fear wasn't about competition in the usual sense. It was about respect for the craft. Standing next to someone operating at that level meant there was no room for mistakes. Ian understood that Public Enemy didn't accept average effort, not even a little. Rapping in front of Chuck D felt like being judged by the highest standard possible, where every word and every rhythm had to hit just right. And this energy didn't stay contained within hip-hop. It spread to anyone who worked with them or even crossed paths with their movement. Public Enemy carried a seriousness that made even aggressive rock artists feel outmatched. That says a lot about the level they were operating on. So what really made Public Enemy so intimidating? It came down to three major factors. First, the message. They focused on real issues, systemic problems, and powerful ideas, which made lighter party rap start to feel shallow. That shift hit artists like the Fat Boys and LL Cool J hard, forcing them to rethink everything. Second, the sound. Their production was loud, layered, and chaotic in a way that pushed the limits, that forced pioneers like Bambaataa and groups like the Beastie Boys to step up or risk falling behind. Third, the presence. Chuck D brought a level of authority that set a new standard across the board. Whether it was collaborators like Scott Ian or other rappers watching from a distance, everyone felt that pressure when his voice entered the room. When It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back dropped in 1988, everything shifted overnight. That album didn't just make noise, it changed the entire standard of hip-hop. Before it, there was room for different styles to exist without heavy judgment. After it, everything started getting measured against Public Enemy's level of depth and intensity. Artists could feel it instantly. The rules weren't the same anymore, and everybody knew it. Public Enemy had turned hip-hop into something sharp, something serious, almost like a weapon. Meanwhile, artists still focused on fun or romance suddenly looked exposed. The Fat Boys with their playful image, LL Cool J with his love records, it all started to feel out of place in this new environment. It was like stepping into a battlefield without realizing the stakes had changed. And for those who couldn't adjust in time, that fear became real consequences. Careers stalled, relevance faded, and the gap between old and new kept getting wider. Public Enemy's focus on real issues and their powerful production made anything lighter seem small and easy to dismiss. But that pressure, as intense as it was, did something important. It forced evolution. It pushed artists to dig deeper, think bigger, and take their craft more seriously. The fear Public Enemy created didn't just break things down, it rebuilt the culture into something stronger, sharper, and impossible to ignore. The Beastie Boys felt that pressure and answered back with Paul's Boutique, a project packed with layers, creativity, and bold ideas that later got recognized as one of the greatest albums ever made. They didn't play it safe, they completely switched their approach and proved they had real depth. LL Cool J took a different route, tightening up his image and coming back strong with Mama Said, Knock You Out, a record that hit hard and showed he could stand tall in this new era. That comeback wasn't small, it was a statement. He proved he wasn't getting pushed out, he was adapting and fighting back. Scott Ian stepped up too, delivering his verse and helping push forward the rap metal sound that would take over the 90s. That moment wasn't just a collaboration, it opened doors for a whole new wave of music. Public Enemy didn't just shake the game, they forced everyone around them to level up. Some couldn't keep up and faded out, but the ones who did, they created some of the most important music hip-hop has ever seen. That fear turned into motivation, and that pressure helped shape the culture into what it is today. So now, it's your turn. Which artist do you think handled Public Enemy's rise the best? Did LL Cool J prove he could match that intensity? Or did the Beastie Boys show the biggest growth with their reinvention? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want more stories like this.